Hey everyone, welcome to the Invest with Nikki podcast where we talk all about real estate, wealth building, and how to build your fire so you can create financial independence and retire early. Today, I am so excited. I have someone that's been in my world for quite some time and he brings a ton of value. Today, we're talking with Kris Wilson of Modified Independence. Today, we're going to go deep on why the hospitality industry is failing disabled travelers and what property owners are missing. Wilson, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself and your business.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Yeah, my name's Kris Wilson. It's spelled with a K. I put it on all my shirts. My company's Modified Independence. I'm an occupational therapist. I've been doing home care for almost, just past 16 years. I've been an occupational therapist for 18 years. And several years ago, actually 8 years ago, I realized that we were not serving the needs of seniors and people with disabilities. So I started my company and I help people modify their homes and their spaces to make them accessible for people with all sorts of disabilities. And had the pleasure of meeting Nikki at BNI 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago,
Longer now, been
something
longer,
like that.
yeah.
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 Um, so we met and we talked and it kind of ran this idea past her and everything. And now here we are. So and I'm so glad we're finally talking about this because I do have OT friends in the business who actually do accessible travel. That's what they do for a living. So they help people with disabilities, and frequently they're like, we need to get together a catalog of places that are accessible so that people with disabilities can know where they can go. You know.
That's an amazing idea. And I think that's definitely something that we could work on because, as you know, I personally am affected by this. My sister, she's 10 years older than me, and she was born with cerebral palsy. And, I was just talking to her the other day because I just got back from New York City and I was just there. I was just noticing because she was like, "Oh, I've always wanted to go there." And, she's like, "But I can't because it's like New York City and I
Mhm.
just wouldn't be able to get around." And as I was like looking around New York City, I'm like, wow, like she's kind of right. There's really not a lot of disable friendly areas there, and the streets are so packed, and like, and I'm not saying that every place is like that, but it was just interesting kind of looking through her lens, when I was traveling, about, wow, yeah, she would have difficulty getting around, and there's a lot of stairs. Every store you go into, you go down or you go up, and there's not ramps, and it's just definitely challenging. So I think having a catalog of short-term rentals that are accessible would be incredible. But I think we need to get the word out. There's nobody really talking about this in the world, I don't think. And especially in the short-term rental world, nobody's talking about this. And most short-term rental owners think, oh, I'll add a grab bar or a ramp, and now my property is accessible. And it's like, in reality, most disabled travelers are still struggling to be safe, comfortable, and independent in a property, even if it has those things, because that's like not even bare minimum. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say that, and I would also say this that if a person with a disability wants to travel, that's kind of a muscle memory type of thing. So, of course, the first time you travel, just like the first time you travel, if you don't have any disabilities, you might forget something or not remember, to bring your toothbrush or whatever. Like, so, part of it is travelers being willing to travel and feeling like they have accessible places to go to.
Yeah.
And I mean, right now we've got the Americans with Disabilities Act, which I've always explained as the government's bare minimum of the accessibility standards for a business, similar to the way that the government has a bare minimum or maximum number of cockroach legs that are allowed to be in your yogurt. It's the government, if the government puts a line on something, they're just trying to make it accessible for everybody. And as the father of a child with low vision, well, she's not a child anymore, but anyway, if we tried to travel, that would be a different situation than if your sister with a wheelchair having to travel. So
Hmm.
the government standards are made so that anybody can be minimally uh, uh, active and be able to travel or be able to access businesses. But a lot of times, I think we miss that, especially when we're looking at short-term rentals, because we don't think about them as a business the way that we would think of a bookstore or something like that. you know.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I would love to kind of expose this massive gap between the ADA minimums and then true accessibility. And I know that we can dive into that a little bit later on in the episode, but I definitely want to teach investors like how can we serve this niche better and create both impact and opportunity. Like opportunity for the investor to develop a unique property that would, do well as it from a business perspective, but then also impact on a disabled person's life to be able to enjoy life more, get out, see things that they wouldn't normally see. And I don't know about you, but for me, whenever I travel, like it just opens up my world so much. I create so much possibility. I get so much creativity and so much energy when I travel and I see other places and other cultures and peoples and just experiences. And like, I want that for like my sister, and for
Hmm.
people that are disabled, but like for them, I notice, at least with my sister, like there's always like this immediate mental block that goes, well, I can't do that because it's not accessible. And it's like, what if
Right.
we lived in a world where they didn't have to think like that because we did, as a community, as a country, as a world, created more opportunity for them. So that's really what I would love to talk about more in this
Absolutely,
episode.
and it starts. I mean, it starts at the front door. I've got this really cool app on my phone that when I go to a business, I take the opportunity after I go to the business to actually put my input into the app, and it's literally the very first question is, do you have to pull the door or do you have to push the door? And if you have to push the door, how hard do you have to push? So
Mm,
accessibility starts at the front door or when they get out of the vehicle at the curb or whatever, you know.
mm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot to
What's the
think
app
about.
called, Kris?
Oh, you would ask me that. I just click on
Oh,
it. I know where it is on my screen. Let's see here. It's Go Mobile.
that's
Yeah,
cool. I should get that for my
yeah,
sister.
yeah. I think that's what it is. Go Mobile. I don't know. I'll have to. I'll tell you what it is, and then you can link to it or whatever. I'll look
Okay.
at it later. Yeah, I don't. Oh, getting put on the spot.
It's okay. Yeah, whenever you find later, maybe share. I think people would
Hmm,
love to,
I thought that's what it
know
was.
what that is, especially if they're traveling with, disabled people or they are disabled. Maybe they don't know about that app, but
Yeah.
um,
Oh, there it is. It's called. It's pulling up right now. Well, it's installing again. I guess I did an
oh, is
update,
it?
and it has to do all
Oh,
the.
when
It
you
has
get
to
it,
do all the
yeah, when
things.
you get
Yeah.
it, yeah. So
Roll. It's called Roll Mobility.
okay, roll mobility. That's cool.
The app is right there. It's like a person in
Roll
a wheelchair.
mobility.
Yeah, it's amazing. So people in wheelchairs or people with disabilities, they can actually leave feedback. So that's a good place to actually get feedback if you're thinking, oh, I want to do something to make my space accessible. You could go to something like that and actually get some feedback on what other people are talking about who are dealing with accessibility issues.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I'm gonna get that app for sure. I'm gonna share that with my sister. That's really cool. So, what are the biggest frustrations you experience with short-term rentals when it comes to accessibility?
Well, as a person who travels, I will tell you that every time we travel somewhere, I usually do a short video of what I think needs to be done to make it accessible for people. Uh, and I would say that the biggest issue that I see in general is the lack of awareness that like the space needs to be wide enough for a wheelchair or wide enough for a walker, or there needs to be a shower chair available. Or, the book that everybody signs into that has all of the information, nobody ever puts the emergency information in there. By
Mm,
the way, if you have to call 911, let them know it's the third brown mailbox past the chicken coop. Like, I mean, because we stay in some places, like when we visit my family and we're out in the country. And if
right.
you're going to call 911, like you need to know where you're going. And
Yeah.
the quicker you can tell them how to get there, the better. So, those books, the very first introduction of your guests to your space is a great opportunity to say, okay, if you have a disability, these are the things that we have set up for you. These are the things that we've made accessible for you. And these are some phone numbers that you might find valuable. because sometimes
That's
people
great.
with disabilities come with health issues too.
Yeah, I always put in my guidebook like the police contact, the nearest hospital, the nearest urgent care, um, and the all the like the contacts of anybody that they would need in case of an emergency. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like the police, the local hospital, and the closest urgent care, and put the locations. But that's a good tip about putting like how they can find you so that they
Hmm.
can describe that. That's a good tip that we could add to all of
Because
ours.
you don't live there. You don't know it's the fourth house after the stop sign or whatever, you know?
Right, you don't know how to
You,
describe it to emergency
exactly.
response, and that makes
Exactly.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about listings that claim that they're accessible, but they're not? Like, can you dive into that?
Well, I mean that's a matter of opinion. You know, accessibility is should be assessed by somebody who is an accessibility expert. Um, the accessibility has a lot of different definitions that I even
Mm,
see with my patients, right? You know, I walk into houses all the time that are covered in scatter rugs, and my patients tell me that their home is accessible, or, you know, they went from a tub to a 3-inch step-in shower. Not necessarily accessible. They just don't have to lift their foot as high, you know.
mm,
So
mm-hmm.
so a lot of times it's a matter of the definition of accessible, and I guess it would be kind of like organic or farm raised or whatever, you know. It
Yeah,
can be a term that's used in an inappropriate way to describe something that people are actually looking for.
yeah. What are some things that hosts could do to make their property more accessible to like the widest, range of people's with disability?
Well, you know, we work as therapists who are certified in accessibility. We work from a perspective of something called universal design, which basically is the ADA only uh, a lot higher. Okay, it's the higher standard of accessibility that we use to describe how a space should be designed to be accessible for just about anybody. Now, I'm not the biggest believer in universal design because I believe that everybody comes with their own limitations and their own disabilities
Mm,
within their disability, right? Everybody's cerebral palsy doesn't look the same. Everybody's stroke doesn't look the same. Everybody's ALS, whatever, they don't look the same. Parkinson's is a big one, right? We've got a boomer
mm,
generation that's aging and developing Parkinson's, but now they want to retire and they want to travel with the money that they've made, right?
right.
So, um, you know, it's a matter of you could do universal design, which would be one step above. But what I would recommend to people is if you understand the people that are coming and using your space because it is accessible, then what you could do is you could change the space up to make it more palatable for those people. So, for instance, you have a wheelchair kit, right? So, if they're on a wheelchair, we know that they're going to need a ramp. They may need handles because they can't reach behind them to open and shut doors. Um, Things like that. They may need like a transfer bench for the tub, something that is kind of a universal wheelchair kit, right? The
Mm,
entire space doesn't always have to be set up like it's accessible for somebody because some people don't want to put in grab bars and everything. But you don't have to put in grab bars if other accessibility features are actually put in there that are appropriate
mm,
for the right people. Now, if we're talking about seniors or people that are just generally a fall risk, then you know there's other things that can be done, and you could actually get that information from the person who's trying to rent your home and then make the space accessible for them. Pediatric, completely different story. Are they in a powered
mm.
wheelchair? Are they in a manual wheelchair? Do they need to be transferred? You could have a Hoyer lift available in your rental.
What's a
That way,
Hoyer
people,
lift?
a Hoyer lift is actually a lift that we can grab a hold of a patient. That would put a net underneath them. We can actually pick them up and help them get onto a shower chair, the toilet, into a manual wheelchair, into bed, anything like that. The more
Wow, that's
accessible,
incredible.
the more accessible you make your home, the more people can stay at your home. It's as simple as
Yes.
that, you know, and simple
Right.
things. I mean, you pay several $100s for a Hoyer lift, but if you have a storage area where you keep extra stuff, maybe you don't need it all the time. But look at this, we have a Hoyer lift. If you have a problem, we have a Hoyer lift and you can get your loved one out of the wheelchair. That's a big
That's
deal.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, recently my sister was in an outpatient rehab. I think we talked about that because she had gone to the hospital, and at the outpatient rehab they had like this to what was it called? It was like a device that she could kind of stand on, that
Oh,
like
it's
she was
Sarah
standing
Steady.
and had. Yes, yes, yes. And
Yeah,
she really liked that actually. She wants one of those for the house. So that's something that is
yeah,
kind of cool. What do you think about those, the
yeah.
stair studies?
It, they serve a purpose so that people can move
Yeah.
people around in rehab. I wouldn't technically uh, trust a loved one with another loved one because we have issues where people can collapse and stuff like that because of
Mm,
blood pressure issues and everything. Not
gotcha.
necessarily my cup of tea. I'm more of a gait belt around the waist
Mm,
with somebody who knows what they're doing. But that's how I've
yeah.
moved patients for 18 years. Um,
Yeah.
not necessarily the thing that would be necessary for a rental, but there are little add-ons that are pretty cheap that could make it a lot easier. Like I referenced the fact that grab bars, right? Some people don't want grab bars. Well, people don't know this, but they actually make a pole. I call it a senior stripper pole, but it's a pole that goes between the floor and the ceiling. There's a round
Right.
plate on the floor, there's a square plate on the ceiling, and you turn the rod, and it's a tension rod, and it pushes between the two. And it's literally a portable grab bar. You can put it anywhere. So if you've got a typical setup with a toilet and a tub, you could literally put it between the toilet and the tub, and the people could use it to get on and off the toilet and in and out of the tub. Because
Wow.
you
Hmm.
you don't want to have to do the cleaning fee because there's blood on the floor because somebody fell in
Yeah.
the bathroom, right?
Right. And we don't want to hurt people, we want them to be
We don't we want people to have fun.
healthy and happy and make great
Yes,
memories at our properties. And
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what about like beds, like height of beds? Can you talk about that?
So this the standard bed height is similar to the standard toilet or chair height, which is usually 17 and a half inches tall. If you go taller than that, then you run the risk that people will fall when they're trying to get out of bed. If you go shorter than that, then obviously people can't maybe stand up as easily. Again, if you know that somebody is coming with a disability or perhaps a senior, uh, you could offer something as simple as a bed rail. These things go underneath the mattress. They have two legs that go to the floor and they have a handle that stick up and they literally attach to the bed. And somebody could actually use that to help get themselves out of bed or transfer from a wheelchair to the bed or vice versa. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it's a $40 investment that doesn't have to stay on the bed. If you know who's coming to your place, then you can have it ready for them, though.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's great.
Now, since we're in the bedroom, I'd like to give everybody a piece of advice, okay?
Yes.
Um, Many times you wake up in a hotel room and you're like, wait, where the hell am I? Okay, yeah, that's right. I'm in Chattanooga or whatever, right? So when they're in your rental, they don't know where the light switch is that they normally push when they get out of bed. There are simple things that you can do that way too. Make the hallway light turn on automatically. Put a motion sensor on the bedside table lamp. Again, you can point these things out to people and say, this is what we've done to make it safe and accessible for you. If you don't want this, then all you have to do is X, Y, and Z. Let us know. We'll
Mm,
change it. Whatever, right? But if you make it more accessible, if you make it more friendly, if you make it safer for people, meaning when they get out of bed to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I went twice last night. I mean, it happens,
mhm.
right? And
Right.
so
Right.
if you don't turn on a light, then you're running the dark obstacle course. And people don't do
Yes.
it when they stay in rentals because they don't want to wake up their spouse who's in bed, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
you could do a motion light underneath the bed that just turns on automatically. That's a low glow LED or something that sends out a little bit of
Mm,
light. There's a lot of different options, and you don't think about the fact that when you're in your home, you know that it's 3 steps to the door and then 4 steps to here and then turn here and you know all of that. But when you're in a rental, you don't know where you are. So automatic lighting would really help with that.
right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I get so confused. I go into so many properties. Like,
Right.
I'm in thousands of properties, right? And I'm just like, why did they design this like this? I can't
Hmm.
even get to the light switch safely,
Yeah.
in the middle of the night, right? So,
Yeah. Light switches behind in swing doors. You know, speaking of in swing doors, if you have a small bathroom and you have somebody with a disability and they fall on the other side of that in swing door, guess what the firemen have to do to get to them?
take the
They
door
got to bust that.
off.
They got to bust that door down. right?
Man,
So if
man.
you have if you have an in-swing door to a room that won't hold more than one person and a walker, you should probably consider changing that. We do.
Yeah.
We have a whole boomer generation that's getting ready to
And
travel. We've
how
got
would they
15
change
years of
that?
this. Change the door frame to an outswing door.
Mm.
The
I
other,
think
the
you recommended one for my sister, which was the hinges that,
Yeah, so
what are
that's
those called?
that's a different story. If they're called swing clear hinges. So if your
Oh,
door is, you there? There you
yeah.
are. So that's an issue in a lot of places, right? So people aren't used to being 25 or 26 inches wide like a walker, or needing 30 inches of clearance like a wheelchair, right? So again, if they're traveling and they're trying to get into the bathroom and your bathroom door is only 24 inches wide, which I want you to understand when you measure, if I measure a door, here's a door frame from the outside of the door or from the inside of the door frame to the inside of the door frame. But people neglect to realize that there's an inch and a half door inside of
Mm,
that door frame. So what was a 30-inch door is really only 28 and a half inches of
mm,
usable space. So
mm-hmm.
in your sister's case, I recommended swing-free hinges. The first action opens the door. The second action moves the door out of the door frame. So now we have access to that full 30 inches. And it's a great way to save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars because you're not hiring a handyman or a contractor. You're not hiring a contractor to come out and rip a door frame out. You're just hiring a handyman to come and put up three hinges very simply and make it way more accessible.
That's great. Yeah, we're trying to go through your plan and get together a plan for implementing all of that, because what you went through, by the way, if you guys have a disability or you know someone that you love that has a disability, I actually had Chris come in and help my sister so that we could create a plan. And his plan is just so thorough, so extensive, and it literally goes room by room, door by door, like thresholds, like everything is considered in his plan, and then he literally creates a customized recommendation for your particular disability and then your space and how to make it the most accessible. And the things that he thought of, like, I never would have thought of. And I've lived with my sister, I'm not lived with her, but she's been in my life my whole life. She's 10 years older than me, and I just don't think of these things because it's not my expertise. And so I think that that was worth its weight in gold to be able to give her a better quality of life, and to be able to create her space, and make her feel safe, and just again, just being able to live daily. Like, we who are healthy and have no disabilities take so much for granted that
Hmm.
we can just go to New York City and have a blast and walk around and go to every store and every restaurant and go to the skyscrapers and go, it's
Yep.
like we are so blessed, right? And
Hmm.
so to be able to create a little bit of that for a person with disability is just, it's life changing for them. My sister just got this power wheelchair, and she is like stoked because she can literally go make her own coffee. She couldn't do that before,
Yeah.
right? Just to go make
Yeah.
your own cup of coffee or take yourself to the restroom or those things, like, we take that first for just granted. So this is just a powerful niche. I mean, you think about, unfortunately, the health of America, it's terrible. And
Hmm.
because of that, it leads to more disabilities, not only from birth, but developed in life, right? And so if we can, serve this population, it's kind of like, if your guest avatar is families, well, you're creating a space that's safe and friendly for kids. It's the same thing. You're thinking and framing in your mind of how can I create this space to be comfortable for all of my guests that I
Hmm.
might see, right? All right, so let's talk about, like, we've kind of gone through, you know, what travelers need, and let's talk about why ADA standards aren't enough. And let's really dive into that, Chris. Like, what do you see the gap is there?
So imagine this: a owner of a short-term rental has a bathroom. They want to put up grab bars. Okay. The ADA says that those grab bars are supposed to be at 36 inches. All right. And I've had this happen numerous times. Uh, I had a gentleman who was almost 7 feet tall. Where do you think his grab bars need to be? Way higher, right? Um, I had a patient who was much shorter. Her grab bars needed to be way lower. You know, so the ADA is just a guide of what could be done, but there are other options besides permanently mounting a grab bar to the wall that would still make it accessible and still satisfy the needs of a person with a disability. They don't have to see a grab bar on the wall to know that it's accessible for them. Okay,
Mm.
people immediately think grab bars because that's one of the things. People also don't know this, but grab bars actually started as an overhead handle on the subway to keep you from crashing into people in front of you. And if you think about the mechanism of action of a grab bar, you're trying to prevent going down. So you should have something over top of you to keep you from going down that you're holding on to.
Mm.
It doesn't do any good to try to push down to resist the
Mm.
downward motion. So
Mhm.
we misuse the purpose of grab bars, but that's just a whole other discussion for me as a therapist. Just
Interesting.
the physics have never made sense to me, right? What you really need to think about is, oh, okay, so we have a traveler who's had a right-sided stroke, and this grab bar is not even going to work for them. They've only got one good left hand, right? So
Yeah.
with that one good left hand, they still got to wipe themselves, get on and off the toilet, pull their pants up, everything like that. Why don't we make it easier and install a bidet and say, hey,
Mm.
here's a bidet. Maybe you've never used one before. People do all kinds of crazy stuff on vacation that they've never done before. You stay at a short-term rental, there's a bidet. You're like, well, I know this isn't a faucet, so I guess this is what this is for. And maybe people would try it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
To help clean themselves. And then that's education for them going home, right? At the same time, there are handles that actually bolt directly to the toilet. There's an
Mm.
$86 set of handles that I recommend all the time from Amazon. They bolt directly to the toilet. The cool thing is they fold up out of the way. So if you
Oh.
don't need them, they don't need to be there. Or if you reach around to wipe yourself, they're not going to get in the way. So this isn't some cumbersome piece of medical equipment. Okay.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
very simple and they can be affixed to the toilet and just never leave.
That's great.
You can, again do the hinges for the doors because, ADA minimum for width of doors in a business, you can't achieve that in a home. In a lot of these older homes, especially the houses in St. Augustine with the narrow doorways, you're never going to be able to achieve that,
That's
right?
true.
You want to blow the whole floor plan of the house up just to widen the door, or you could
Right.
just switch out some hinges and make it safe enough that they can get through with their walker or their crutches or whatever they're on. If it's not going to work for a wheelchair, then you have to make the decision: do I want to spend the money to open this doorway up, or do I need to provide another space that's accessible to that person? And that's
Right.
what I can help you. That's what I can help you decide, right?
Yeah.
Do we need to do
That's
this,
good.
or is there another space that would be perfectly fine for them?
Mhm. Mhm. Wonderful. Okay. So let's talk about the business opportunity that investors are missing when it comes to, this niche, right? Like you just talked about the boomers in the next 15 years. Let's dive into that. Like let's talk about the demand for accessible travel.
There's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a
Mm.
lot of that. There's a lot of statistics floating around right now that this generation holds like 80% of the wealth or something like that. So there's going to be a huge redistribution of money and everything like that. Well, these people are going to want to travel before they die, right? And they bring with them all of their health problems, and some of them they don't even know about. So, but what they don't remember to bring is perhaps they don't bring the walker or the cane that they used to use around the house after they had a knee replacement. They don't bring that
Mhm.
with them.
Mhm.
So, again, there's a massive opportunity because of the number of people. We actually refer to it as the silver tsunami. The next 15 years, the boomer generation is going to go from retirement age at 65 to 80, which is usually the age that we start figuring they're going to become more localized, uh, more in their home, less traveling and everything like that. So you got 15 years of this wave of these people traveling, just like I have 15 years of this wave of people who are in that aging group who are going to need their homes to be more accessible. So
Right.
if their homes need to be more accessible, the places they go to need to be more accessible. Because like I said, they
Mhm.
bring their health with them.
Yeah. Where they go, their health goes, right? And that's
Absolutely.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, all the statistics are definitely out there and I've seen, all the talk about that. And and I have in-laws that are, at that like 65 mark. And, my dad is actually much older, but like he's in his mid 70s, but he's super healthy. So I don't really, all the people that are around me are actually very healthy, besides my sister who, has struggled with her disability. And, it's cool because I do have a lot of contrast. I see my sister, but then I see older people that are super healthy. But I do know that, like, there is just a huge gap and a huge business opportunity for people who want to, just like if you were going to niche down and offer a pet friendly home and you make the home all about the pets, this is the same thing. But this is something that you can do in combination with all of those other niches. And it creates, you're creating your own demand because there's very few properties out there that actually offer this.
Hmm.
The population's aging. You've got multi-generational family travel. So not just, the boomers traveling on their own, but like they want to come with their kids and then the grandkids, and they want to all be together, right? So you've got multi-generationals. And then this also can create repeat guest loyalty. Once someone that's disabled stays with you and has, the accessibility, and they see that the home really works for them, you bet that they're going to continue to come back because they can trust that they have what they need. Would you agree, Kris?
Absolutely. And these people oftentimes belong to a tribe of people that are in their same situation, right? So they're going to talk about those things. We stayed at this awesome place in St. Augustine, and we had no problems getting the kids in and out of the wheelchair, out of the van and into the house, and we had a perfectly accessible place. The kids could see out the windows, and they had privacy so they could take care of themselves in the bathroom. Like all of those things are meaningful to the person who's traveling. And if you think about it, I mean, I talk about seniors a lot because that's my target market, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, people with little kids that have cerebral palsy, they still want to travel. People with
Yeah.
kids with autism, people with kids with all of these disorders, Downs, like they want to be able to travel, but they need the place that they're going to be as accessible as what they've created at home. Because if it's not, and they feel like it's going to be too difficult, like you were referencing with New York City, then they're not going to travel. But
Yeah.
I do believe, as the father of again, a low vision adult now, that when we were traveling, if that was an issue, we would have had to teach her that. And when she travels, she needs to know where things are available to her and stuff like that. So it's really a matter of you're trying to be as broad as possible, but also as efficient at making this space accessible for people. And the sky's the limit for that because people are trying to travel. And again, the more people you can serve, the more things you can sell, right?
Absolutely.
If all
Yeah.
if all you have is a jalapeno cheeseburger, then that's the only people you're going to sell it to,
That's
right?
right.
But if
I
you're
think
willing to
what would be
take the
really
jalapenos off and take the cheese off, then you can sell it to many more people.
That's right. Yeah. I think it'd be really great if you and I came up with like a freebie for people where it was like, here's the top 10 things you could do right now to make your short-term rental more accessible. I think that, like you said, like the fold-away toilet handles, the bed, what are the bed things called? Sorry.
The bed rail. Yep.
The bed rail, yeah.
Yep.
The wheelchair pack with the ramp and things like that. If we came up with links and just kind of a quick guide, I think that that would be a great start for our listeners to, like, have something tangible that they could do and take away and implement right now. And as you said, like most of it's really low cost. So I think that that's something that you and I could probably work on together for them.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the idea is kind of from a former client who traveled a lot, and they had a bug out bag. I mean, essentially a bug out bag. Like if we got to travel, these are the things that we're going to have to take with us because we might be going someplace that's not accessible, and they were
Hmm.
in a wheelchair, so it included a 3 foot folding briefcase ramp. Now, according to ADA, that's only going to work for a 3 inch step, but in a pinch, if we got to get in to a roadside motel, then that's what we're going to have to do. And that's just a simple thing that can be had on hand at any place. So yes, a simple list would be a great idea.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's some questions lingering out there for me of like, do accessible properties actually perform better? What upgrades are going to create the biggest impact? What is the ROI on better accessibility? Those types of questions, we really don't have the data on
And you can,
because
but you can build that in when you're building out. If you're remodeling the home, why not just get it done while you're remodeling the home, right? To make it a
true.
rental.
Yes, right.
While it's bones, get somebody like me in the
Hmm.
home and say, hey, what do we need to do because we want to make this accessible, right?
Yeah,
And again,
yeah,
I maintain it's easier to fix something the first time than it is to try to come back, right? So, if you're ripping out the tub and you're doing a shower, it's actually cheaper to do a step or a roll-in shower than it is to do a step-in shower. But a lot of people would
that's
never
true.
tell you that.
Right.
And it's more accessible to a lot more people.
Hmm.
um, Widening the doorways automatically, making them at least 30 inches wide. Excuse me, having automatic motion lights going into the
Hmm.
bathroom. There's a reason the lights turn on automatically at the gas station.
Yeah,
They don't want you
yeah,
falling. They don't want you
yeah.
falling in the bathroom because fire trucks at the gas station don't sell gas, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
fire trucks at a short-term rental don't look very good either, right?
That's true.
So yeah, I mean it's the very simple basic things, and I think the ROI would be much higher because there are literally communities on Facebook that keep trying to recruit me to try to be an accessible travel agent. I've got one
Mm,
gig, and that's what I do. I don't want to
right.
do that, but I literally have 4 or 5 friends. They are therapists, and that's what they do, and they do it for a full-time job. So there are lots of people with disabilities who are trying to travel because you
Yeah.
think the number of people that actually use a travel agent versus the number that try to do it on their own, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this really takes some concierge level kind of a help, so that's great. I would love to connect with the people that are
But
doing the travel agents.
I'm sure you have clients that have incredible spaces that could be easily they would love to showcase to a lot larger group,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. For sure. So let's do some fun. Let's go through some rapid fire myth busting. Are you ready, Chris?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, myth. Accessibility ruins design.
Wrong accessibility ruins design. I can tell you that.
Mm,
Because people don't want it to look like a hospital. But for the most part, if you make it accessible intentionally while you're designing it, it's not going to turn out bad. But if you've got to go back and remedy something, then you're going to spend more money and everything like that. So I don't think accessibility ruins design. I just think the right accessibility looks like it belongs there.
makes sense. All right, next myth. Only elderly guests need accessible homes.
Oh goodness, no, no. I mean, those people think about you're thinking about the people in their 30s, but you're not realizing that they've got a child at home that they don't travel with because of these concerns, right? So if you can make it so their child with autism has a quiet room where they can calm down and everything, where there's not any traffic noise and there's not all of that excessive stuff, then that makes your space more palatable. And that's just autism. That's not even all of the other things that people with children have that limit them in their ability to go and travel to places.
Yeah, yeah, great. Okay. Next myth.
But
ADA
seniors have more money than infants, so you should make your spaces accessible for seniors.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So let's talk about the next myth.
yeah.
ADA compliance means fully accessible.
No, ADA compliance is minimally accessible. Minimally accessible for the maximum number of people with disabilities. It's completely the
Got it.
opposite.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Accessible design is too expensive.
Say that again, you cut off on me.
Accessible design is too expensive.
Oh goodness, no, 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 no. You can design accessibility while you're designing the remodel of the space for your rental, or if you're just not going to remodel it, it's not going to be that expensive. I just gave you the idea of the $22 hinges versus an $800 door frame. You know,
Right.
a
Yep.
$90 set of a $90 set of toilet safety rails versus a $300 with installation pair of grab bars, especially if you call a handyman and you don't have anybody under contract. Last minute, they love charging that trip fee. That's going to cut
Right.
into your return on investment.
Yes. Right. So
And
last
even
one.
my fee is nominal. It's not, I'm not that expensive to get my expertise in the home. I charge you
No, I think
$500.
yeah, I think it's very affordable, right? It's a very small investment for the impact that it
Yeah.
creates. All right, last one. Luxury and accessibility don't go together.
Uh, some of the most beautiful homes that I've been in were absolutely set up for accessibility because the person that lived there needed that. And uh, yeah, I mean, you can design some amazing accessibility that is just breathtaking,
That's
and
awesome.
it doesn't require all of the stuff that makes things look uh, like a hospital, I guess is the terminology that people use.
Yeah.
There's some things you can't tuck away. If you get, if you got one of these 3 stories downtown St. Augustine and you're trying to get upstairs, you're going to need a stair lift, or you're going to have to decide if you want to pay the extra fee for a design so you can put an elevator out back.
Yeah.
There's other issues like that. But again, designing after the fact is more expensive than designing it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Wonderful. Well, really to close this up, and I'm sorry I'm having some Wi-Fi issues here. My video's not working, but I just want to share like accessibility isn't compliance. It's a hospitality. And in the short-term rental business, we are in the hospitality business. That's what we do. We create, a space where people can come, enjoy, create memories, be comfortable, rest, recover, have fun, and it is hospitality to make people feel completely taken care of, have everything that they need, and truly comfortable. And this is something that I think that us as hosts and short-term rental owners can really do better. And the best hosts create spaces where all guests can feel comfortable, independent, and safe and included, right?
Yeah.
And if you're investing in hospitality, you got to ask yourself if every guest can truly enjoy the experience that you're selling. So, Kris, you have brought so much value. Thank you so much for all your expertise. I'd love for you to just share anything that you want to leave the audience with, and then also tell them, how they can get a hold of you and how they can work with you.
Okay, I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. And I appreciate your kind words when you were talking about helping your sister. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I love hearing the way that people describe what I do, and I love hearing the way that people relate how I've been able to help them or whatever, because it really helps me
yeah,
zero in on what people are looking for and how I can help them. And this opportunity to talk about short-term rentals has been tremendous. Like I said, I brought it to you several years ago, and we're
yeah.
talking about it now. This is
It
the
only
thing,
took
right?
us like
And
2, 3 years.
that's okay. That's okay. Everything happens when it's supposed to.
Yeah,
Um, and I think I've probably become a little more eloquent with the way that I speak about what I do too. So
mm,
I don't think I would have been ready to talk like this when we first met. So everything happens when it's supposed to.
that's right.
With that in mind, what I do is I help people make their homes safe and accessible, no matter what the disability is. So if you know a senior who has any sort of concerns about mobility or anything like that, I know, Nikki, I'm not trying to put this on you, knock on wood. You said your dad's healthy and everything like that. There are many, many healthy people that still find a way to trip over the ottoman that's been there for years, or find a way to now have blood pressure issues that they didn't expect to have. And a new
Mm,
medication changes the way that they feel. And that's how typically the first fall happens. Now, I know
mm,
I might not be talking to your audience specifically, but they probably are dealing with this issue either as a sandwich generation, somebody watching this podcast may be taking care of a senior or concerned about taking care of a senior. So I just encourage people, if you're local to this area or you want me to work with you remotely, I do video assessments of homes to help people find all of those areas of need. Locally, I come to the home, do all the measurements, just like Nikki said, and produce a report for you. and then we walk through that report and figure out how to get you set up with everything that you need. And that's really my passion, and I love trying to help people prevent the thing that is probably going to change their life. Because I've seen it change hundreds of lives as a therapist
Yeah.
working with people in the homes. And there's plenty of things that can be done, and most of those things translate over to short-term rentals too. So, um, hopefully you guys are watching this on YouTube. I'm also on YouTube. I know she's going to link Modified Independence. My website is very simple. It's callbeforemomfalls.com. That's
I
C A
love
L
that.
L CallBeforemomFalls. That spells call before mom falls, because that's what I want you to do. Call me before mom
Yeah.
falls. Again, it's easier to fix
Hmm.
a person before they're broken than it is after they're broken. Kind of like designing accessible space before you actually build it. So it's kind of the same analogy. So anything that I can do to help people out, of course, she's going to have links to all my social media. I love posting about different topics on a daily basis and everything. So if there's everything that I can do to help you, I'm glad to. It's called Before Mom Falls. I'm Kris with a K, and it has been an absolute pleasure being on your podcast, Nikki. Thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome. Thank you. And yes, everything will be linked in the show notes. And we can't wait to launch your episode, Kris. Thank you again for your time. It's been awesome.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
All right, don't leave yet, Kris.
Okay.
Let me just stop us real quick.